Ready for the tsunami of brutal decisions tearing through Washington's roster? Adam Peters isn't playing. He's taking a shot at a young talent we thought was unbreakable. Who's falling today to make way for a seasoned powerhouse? This is no drill. As we speak, a key player is blossoming on the wire, and the clock's ticking toward the final cut. But wait, Von Miller brings a personal vendetta that will shake the NFC. The 35-year-old beast has some unfinished business. What's the bomb he's got tucked away to silence the doubters? The answer will chill your blood. Amid the chaos, the masterstroke, a superstar from the heavens might save Jaden Daniels from the hell of a holdout. Will Washington dare to sign him before Philly or Dallas? Subscribe now. This won't last 24 hours. Every second counts when Peters plays God with the rosters. Miss this market close, and there's no replay. Are you in or out of the revolution? Adam Peters' moves are never random, and his latest play just sent a devastating signal that's got everyone talking. After that embarrassing performance against New England, Peters didn't just stand by as some players failed to measure up when it was most needed. And you know what he did? Brought in Daryl Worley out of nowhere, a veteran with 9 seasons under his belt who just aced a trial with the team. But here's the brutal part. This move puts Robert McDaniel, the young talent who's been shining since early practices, right on the edge. Let's dive into why this move is so significant and what it tells us about Peters' philosophy as general manager. Since arriving in Washington, Peters has shown one thing consistently. He doesn't care about feelings when it's about building a winning team. And the situation with McDaniel is the perfect example of this ruthless mentality. McDaniel has been the nicest surprise of the entire offseason. This kid came in as an undrafted free agent from Jackson State, a school not exactly known for producing NFL talent. But from day one at the Ashburn facility, this young man proved he belonged at this level. During voluntary OTAs, when many veterans didn't even show up, McDaniel was there every day, working with veteran-level intensity. Reporters covering. The team started noticing his name constantly in practice reports. It wasn't just that he was participating, but shining against top-tier receivers. In the mandatory minicamp, McDaniel took the next step. Coaches elevated him to work with the starting defense, a nearly unprecedented move for an undrafted rookie this early in the process. He was covering Terry McLaurin in one-on-one drills, and not only was he holding his own, but winning some reps. In training camp, things got more competitive, but McDaniel kept flashing. Coaches noticed his versatility. He can play strong, safety, free safety, even some nickel corner in certain formations. That versatility is pure gold in the modern NFL, where teams value players who can perform multiple jobs. Then came the game against the Patriots. Yes, it was disappointing for the team overall, but McDaniel showed exactly why he's been generating so much buzz. 3 solid tackles, including one where he perfectly read a screen route and got there fast to limit the yards gained. And that pass defense he registered wasn't a fluke. He was exactly where he needed to be, anticipating the quarterback's throw and nearly intercepting it. But here's the problem. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters weren't looking at individual stats after that game. They were looking at a team that seemed disorganized, lacking the necessary intensity, without that team urgency that's needed to compete for a championship. And when that happens, heads start to roll. Daryl Worley isn't exactly a superstar, but he's the type of player Peters has been bringing in all year. 9 seasons in the league means he's seen all sorts of situations. He's played in Pittsburgh, Oakland, Dallas, Buffalo, Seattle, Carolina, and Tennessee. He's been on good teams and bad, seen strict and relaxed coaches, been in complex and simple defensive systems. The 52 tackles he registered in just 9 games with Tennessee last year aren't spectacular numbers, but they show he can contribute immediately. Worley understands the game on a level that McDaniel, regardless of talent, simply can't comprehend yet. And here's the part that really fascinates me about Peters' philosophy. He's not building for the future. He's building for now. After that run to the NFC Championship game last year, Peters knows the window is open now with Jaden Daniels rapidly developing as quarterback. The safety position is particularly critical in Dan Quinn's system. Quinn uses a lot of rotational coverage, where safeties must communicate formation changes, audibles, and last-minute adjustments. A veteran like Worley can do that instinctively. McDaniel, no matter how smart, is still learning those nuances. Also, let's consider the current depth chart context. Quan Martin is coming off a solid rookie season and has clearly gained the coach's trust. Will Harris is a reliable veteran who knows the system. Percy Butler has shown flashes and has that versatility Quinn loves. Jeremy Reeves is practically untouchable for his special teams contributions. And Tyler Owens has been impressing in Camp Dot with those 5 almost secured. We're talking potentially one spot available on the 53-man roster for the position. And now McDaniel's not just competing against Worley, but against any other safety that might be on waivers when other teams make their cuts. The brutal reality is, McDaniel is learning a hard lesson about the NFL business. No matter how well you've practiced in April, May, and June, no matter how many positive reports you've generated, when August comes and the roster must be cut to 53, only if you can help the team win games right now matters. Peters is also sending a message to the rest of the roster. Nobody's safe. It doesn't matter if you're rookie or veteran, drafted or undrafted. If you're not producing at the level the team needs, there are consequences. That competitive mentality is exactly what a team needs that wants to take the next step. McDaniel still has a few more opportunities in the remaining preseason games, but the clock is ticking fast. He not only needs to play well, but exceptionally. He needs to make plays Worley can't. He needs to show his player's ceiling is worth more than a veteran's experience and reliability. And if he doesn't make it, a practice squad spot would really be a success considering the circumstances. But even that's not guaranteed, as other teams that saw his potential during the preseason might try to sign him to their own practice squads. This situation perfectly personifies Peters' philosophy. Respect talent, but value immediate production. McDaniel might have all the potential in the world, but Worley can contribute from the first snap of the regular season. Do you think Peters is being too harsh on McDaniel, or is it the right decision for a team in championship mode? Von Miller just revealed something that has me absolutely fascinated, and when you hear this, you'll understand why this 35-year-old veteran might still be the secret weapon the Commanders need to go all the way. In a recent interview with Johnny Manziel as part of the Texas A&M Tell-All, Miller confessed something he had never publicly said about Super Bowl 50. That game where he demolished Cam Newton and the Panthers wasn't just football. It was much deeper and personal. But to really grasp the magnitude of what Miller revealed, we have to go back to February 2016 and the context of that historic Super Bowl. The Denver Broncos were coming in with a legendary defense, but also with Peyton Manning clearly declining and an offense that had struggled all season. The Carolina Panthers, on the other hand, were coming with the momentum of a near-perfect 15-1 season, led by Cam Newton, who had the season of his life. Newton had blitzed past all records during the regular season. 35 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns, over 3,800 passing yards, and nearly 640 rushing yards. He was a machine producing spectacular plays, and the entire game narrative was about how this new generation of mobile quarterbacks was going to change football forever. But Von Miller had other plans. And what he just revealed shows exactly how the mind of an elite competitor works at that level. I made this personal in my mind with Cam, Miller revealed. He was the number 1 overall pick. I was number 2, and he was the MVP going into the game. This part was already known to many fans following their career since entering the league in 2011, but the depth of how Miller processed that rivalry is what truly impresses. Miller never forgot that Newton was picked 1 spot before him in that draft. While Newton grabbed all the attention as the franchise quarterback revolutionizing the position, Miller quietly built a Hall of Fame career as a pass rusher. But that single pick difference always lingered in his competitive mind. And then Newton won the regular season MVP in 2015, culminating with those iconic celebrations, the dabbing, the supreme confidence he had walking the field. Miller watched all this and used it as fuel, but there was something that completely ignited him. Here's the part that blew my mind and demonstrates the level of detail these elite athletes reach to motivate themselves. Miller revealed that Future, the rapper publicly involved with Ciara at the time, released his album Evo just the day before the Super Bowl. Miller, as a hip-hop fan, immediately downloaded the album and started listening word for word during his final game preparations. But when he reached track 12 or 13, he heard something that ignited him like never before. Future saying, "We about to win so big," clearly referencing the Panthers and that Super Bowl. I'm listening to this and say, what? Are they saying they're winning the game before it starts? Recalled Miller. That made it super personal in my mind. Imagine the level of obsession that requires listening to an entire album, word for word, during your preparations for the biggest game of your career, and then using a specific line from a song as additional motivation. That's not normal. That's the kind of mentality that separates the greats from the legendary. Miller also mentioned something crucial about his mental state before that game. It was the first game I played where I wasn't nervous beforehand. You were talking about flow state, and not really thinking. I had made this personal, like Michael Jordan. That Michael Jordan reference isn't casual. Jordan was famous for creating personal narratives, for finding ways to motivate himself even in situations where objectively there wasn't a real rivalry. Miller was applying exactly the same psychology, taking elements that might seem minor to others and turning them into a personal obsession. The result is already known, but it's worth revisiting just how dominant Miller was in that game. 2.5 official sacks, but constant pressure throughout the game. 2 forced fumbles completely changed the momentum. 6 total tackles, many in critical third down situations. More important than statistics was the psychological impact. Newton, who had been practically unstoppable all season, looked completely out of his element. Miller was in his head from the first snaps, and that famous play where Newton didn't dive for the fumble near the end zone became the symbol of how Miller's pressure had shattered the quarterback's confidence. Miller became the Super Bowl MVP. But more importantly, established a template for how to neutralize these new generation mobile quarterbacks. It's not just about speed or power. It's about constant mental pressure, making them question every decision. Now, almost 10 years later, Miller is here in Washington with us, and I firmly believe that mentality hasn't changed one bit. He's had an incredible career since then. Continued dominating with Denver, went to the Los Angeles Rams mid-2021 season, and was instrumental in winning another Super Bowl. Then spent time with Buffalo, trying to push them over the hurdle, falling short but showing he still had much to offer. With 14 seasons in the league, 7 All-Pro selections, 8 Pro Bowls, and 2 Super Bowl rings, Miller already has a secure legacy. He's one of only 2 players in history with multiple Super Bowl games with multiple sacks. Co-holds the record for most sacks in Super Bowls for life. His Hall of Fame ticket is practically guaranteed. But here's what's fascinating. He himself said he's seeking that 3rd ring. At 35, after everything he's achieved, he still has that hunger that drove him to make Super Bowl 50 personal against Cam Newton. And now he's here with Jayden Daniels quickly developing as quarterback, with a defense that has all the pieces to be elite, with a team that just reached the NFC Championship game and is clearly in win-now mode. What do you think Miller is thinking when he looks at this season's schedule? When he sees we're facing Philadelphia twice, we got games against Dallas, that we might potentially see teams like San Francisco or Detroit in playoffs. I know these sorts of competitors, and Miller will find a way to make some of those games personal. Maybe it's something Jalen Hurts says in an interview. Maybe it's something about how the media's covering the Commanders. Maybe it's a line in a song he listens to during preparations. Miller lives for the big moments. Those primetime games, those hostile playoff environments, those situations where the pressure's at its highest. And with the experience he now has, with everything he's seen and learned throughout his career, he could be entering his best phase as a situational player. He doesn't need to be the 2015 Von Miller playing 70% of snaps. He needs to be the 2025 Von Miller entering at third and long, in 2-minute drill situations, in those critical moments where a sack can change the game entirely. And if he finds a way to motivate himself as he did against Newton, if he creates another personal narrative that ignites him like in 2015, get ready, because this is going to be special. This defense already has talent, but adding a motivated and focused Miller could be precisely what we need to make that final leap towards a championship. Do you think Von Miller still has enough in the tank to be the X factor in a playoff run? And now we reach the news that could completely change this season's course. And when you hear this, you'll understand why Adam Peters might be about to make the smartest play of his career as general manager. With Terry McLaurin still in holdout over his contract, our receiving room is looking dangerously light for a rookie quarterback like Jaden Daniels. And here's where Odell Beckham Jr. comes in, who, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, has interest from multiple teams and plans to play somewhere this season. But before diving into why OBJ will be perfect for us, we need to understand just how problematic the McLaurin situation is becoming and how it could affect Daniels' entire development as a quarterback. McLaurin is in the final year of his current contract and clearly feels he deserves an extension to pay him like the elite WR1 he's become. I can't blame him. Over the past 4 years, McLaurin has been consistently one of the most productive and reliable receivers in the league, making spectacular plays with quarterbacks who, let's face it, didn't always give him the best chances. But here's the problem. Each day without McLaurin on the field is one less day of chemistry building with Daniels. And for a rookie quarterback, that chemistry isn't just important. It's absolutely critical for his early development. Daniels comes from LSU, where he had a special connection with certain receivers who knew exactly how he liked running certain routes, how he anticipated certain cuts, how he could improvise when plays broke down. That chemistry is built with repetitions, mutual trust, with thousands of practice passes, creating that telepathy elite quarterbacks and receivers need. Without McLaurin, Daniels is primarily working with Deebo Samuel, who is undeniably a special talent but just arrived via trade and hasn't had enough time to develop that connection. Then we have Jalen Lane, Noah Brown, and rookie Luke McCaffrey. Lane has potential, but is still proving he can be a consistent NFL-level contributor. Brown is a solid veteran, but has never been more than a complimentary receiver. McCaffrey is intriguing due to his family pedigree and athleticism, but he's still a rookie learning the professional game's speed. It's a talented group. Don't get me wrong, but none have that established relationship with Daniels. You need to maximize a young quarterback's potential. And Samuel, as talented as he is, can't carry the entire air offense alone, especially when still learning Cliff Kingsbury's offensive system. Here's where Odell Beckham Jr. becomes the perfect solution for multiple problems. First, let's talk about what OBJ can still do on the field. Yes, he's not the OBJ of his Giants days when he was practically unstoppable and made physics-defying catches. But the man is still 31, which isn't old for a receiver, especially one who's taking care of his body and has the motivation. To prove he can still contribute at the highest level, the hands are still there. That ability to make contested catches, to adjust to throws that aren't perfect, to create separation with smart route running instead of purely relying on speed. OBJ has always been more than a freak athlete. He's a game student who understands how to use his body, position himself, and manipulate defenders. And his after-catch ability is still special. He can take a 5-yard slant and turn it into a 15-yard gain because he understands leverage, how to make tacklers miss, and find open spaces after the initial catch. but more important than his physical abilities is what he can offer mentally. To Daniels, OBJ has played with quarterbacks of all levels throughout his career. He's played with Eli Manning in decline, with Baker Mayfield struggling to find himself, with Matthew Stafford during a championship run. He's seen different offensive systems, coaching philosophies, and pressure types and situations. That experience would be invaluable for Daniels. Having someone in the huddle who can say, "Hey, in this situation, I'll be here if you need an escape valve," or "If you see this coverage, I'll make this adjustment automatically." That kind of veteran-rookie communication can dramatically accelerate a young quarterback's development. Moreover, OBJ already knows the NFC East perfectly. He spent years torturing Dallas, Philadelphia, and Washington when with the Giants. He knows defensive coordinators, coverage tendencies, exactly what kind of routes work best against these specific teams. Imagine having OBJ telling Daniels before the game against Philadelphia, "Look, this safety always bites on play action in this situation, and if we run this route here, we'll get an easy connection." That type of situational knowledge is priceless. And from a roster development perspective, OBJ would be perfect because you wouldn't need to commit long-term. You could sign him on a one-year deal, see how the chemistry works with Daniels, and make future decisions based on real results. If McLaurin resolves his contract situation quickly and returns to the team, suddenly you have a receiver group with McLaurin, Samuel, and OBJ that will be one of the most dangerous in the NFC. 3 guys who can win one-on-one matchups, make plays after the catch, and have experience in high-pressure situations. If McLaurin's holdout extends into the regular season, OBJ can step in immediately and be that reliable veteran presence Daniels needs. It wouldn't be perfect from day one, but his experience would allow him to contribute much more quickly than most receivers in similar situations. Also, consider the psychological aspect for the rest of the roster. Signing OBJ would declare that the organization is fully committed to competing for a championship this year. After reaching the NFC Championship game last season, players want to see the front office doing everything possible to make that next step, and for fans, it would be a similar signal. After decades of frustrations and seasons that started with hope and ended in disappointment, having the organization aggressively pursuing veteran talent like OBJ would show that we're finally thinking like a winning franchise. The fit in Kingsbury's offensive system would also be natural. Kingsbury has worked with slot receivers before, and OBJ can play both outside and inside depending on the formation. His versatility will give Kingsbury more options to create mismatches and keep defenses guessing. From a financial perspective, it probably wouldn't be prohibitively expensive. OBJ is clearly more interested in being in a winning situation than maximizing his last big contract. And Peters has shown he's willing to be creative with contract structures to bring in the talent the team needs. The real question isn't whether OBJ would help the team. He clearly would. The question is whether Peters is willing to make an aggressive move like this with uncertainty still looming over McLaurin's situation. But I think Peters should do it. In the worst case, you have too much talent in the position, which is never a real problem. At best, you've solved your rookie quarterback's biggest issue and made a giant step towards turning this offense into something special. This is exactly the kind of move that separates organizations that talk about winning from those that do what it takes to win. OBJ might not be the same as his Giants' glory days, but the man can still play at a high level, and right now, the Commanders need precisely that. Do you think Peters should do everything possible to sign OBJ, or is it better to wait for McLaurin's situation to resolve? Look, these 3 stories show one thing. Adam Peters isn't playing when it comes to building the championship team. He's making tough decisions with McDaniel, has Von Miller ready for another battle, and the possibility of bringing OBJ might be the move that takes us all the way. I want to know what you think. Is Peters too harsh cutting young players? Can Miller deliver another historic performance at 35? Should we go all in on Beckham Jr., even with McLaurin in a holdout? Drop your comments below because these conversations are what make this community special. If you like this analysis and want to stay updated with all the Commanders' moves, subscribe to the channel because we're a family here and families stick together. And remember, hail to the Redskins.